They said when I was young I was such a beautiful baby, that I was the heart and soul of every gathering, that even strangers would come up and say how lovely I was. But it all changed when I was 5 years old. I woke up on my birthday before Mum and Dad. The dawn hadn't even hit the skies yet. Downstairs I went, and there were my wrapped up presents. I can still see them and smell them now. Blue wrapping paper with pink ribbons. I can feel the smooth texture. I sat by my presents in the dark and felt the parcel, guessing what they'd be. I thought I'd better not open them as Dad might be angry. But then suddenly the lights went on, and I turned to see my mum with hand on light switch. Her face was so horrified, her eyes wide open, and then she screamed. I turned back around, and the darkness gone revealed beside my presence the dead body that used to be my father. I don't know what horrified my mother the most, the fact Dad was dead, or that I was sitting beside him, with my present in my hand. But as many times as I told my mum that I didn't see Dad because of the dark, I don't think she ever did believe me. I remember that night. I cried my eyes out. My mother shouted at me, sent me to bed, and then the police came. When I came down to have dinner, I saw my birthday cake in the bin. I remember my little legs running down the living room up to the stairs into my bedroom. I slammed the door, jumped on the bed, and cried myself asleep. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, unable to move. I froze. I thought about going downstairs. I thought it was my birthday again, that I'd find my presents there again, that my Dad would be alive and my mum would be happy. But I never did go down. But when the next morning came, I knew that day had forever gone. When I was 7, I went to school. My mum held my hand all the way. I looked up at her in her sunglasses. It was the first time we'd been out. I remember those big sunglasses looking down at me. I could never tell what she was thinking or saying. Her eyes hidden away, she didn't show any emotion anymore. I held tight of my mum's hand, never wanting to let it go. But she gave mine up so easily. Pushed me off to the gate. I ran all the way there, and halfway I turned my head to see where she was. But she was already gone. I remember walking the rest of the way to the gate, with no one there. There was nobody else to impress anymore. When I was 12, a boy at school punched me in the face. I so wanted to punch him back, but I remember Dad always told me, son, never be a bully. Don't do to others what you wouldn't like done to yourself. His words echoed in my head, as if he was right by my side. I so wished I could feel his warmth. Oh God, I wish I could feel him by my side. School came and went. What happened during it I don't remember. I only had 3 friends. All left before the final time ended. They came and went, like all those who knew me. The only constant was Mum, but she was never the same after Dad's death. When I was 16, I went to college to retake my GCSEs, and still didn't pass any of them anyway. A lot happened to me in my childhood, but I always remember my dad's words and hoped that the best lay ahead for me. But I found it increasingly difficult, when most times I found myself alone, without any friends. But this was all about to change, as I decided to move out of Mum's home, and for that I would need a job. And through the door was a leaflet, inquiring for help wanted. The company was called Body Jobs Ltd, so I phoned them up and passed their interview. At first I thought I would hate this kind of work, that I was not suited, would be unable. But as I fell asleep, I started to dream about it. When I awoke, I showered, as I found myself in a cold sweat. I felt ill and had to convince myself to go to my first day. I so wanted just to leave it and find another job, but I needed to get out of Mum's home, so I went. We were called to a flat on a high-rise tower. I was suited in a white protective suit with a mask. We were told that a man had died 8 weeks ago, and he was only found yesterday. We opened the door, and immediately I was struck by the most horrendous odor. It was the smell of hot, rotting death. The flat's windows had been closed for 8 weeks in the hottest summer ever recorded. The lights inside were flickering, which added to the hazy look due to the heat. Flies flew out towards us from the flat. We stepped inside. I looked up the wall. There was blood. I looked on the floor. A rug was covered with hundreds of white, tiny maggots. I carried me outside, feeling sick, and there was a man in charge talking to some kids, that he'd asked them what we did, and he was kindly explaining all the gory details. He told the 5-year-old kids, "When you die, you all go gooey. Blood and fluids come out of you. First your eyes pop out of your head like this." He put his closed hands up by his eyes and opened them up quickly, accompanied by a popping sound. "Then, right, see, your skin swells like a big balloon, like the ones you have at your parties. Then it bursts, splat, and out comes pus and goo, and then flies like those ones nest in the arm, and they lay little eggs, which turn in maggots, and they start eating the deceased alive first, because they ain't got any teeth. Like your granny, I expect. They eat fleshy parts, like Granny, she likes grapes. They're nice and soft and juicy, fruity, just like dead skin. Well, anyhow, first they eat your eyes and your nose, then your face collapsing in on itself, and usually that's when we come to clear it up. So you interested in joining up?" The kids all said no way, and ran down the stairs to leave us to clear up. Inside, there he was, the old man, about 55, I'd say, lying, his leg bent up right next to the front door, his arms outstretched. There was blood on the doorknob. As I was there, I started to imagine what had happened to this old geezer, that he had some kind of heart attack or something, and had dragged himself from the kitchen, as there was a line of destruction of ornaments and things from the kitchen to the front door. And he reached the doorknob to try and open it and to cry for help, but died before he could do so. And that's where we found him right now. Whilst the others were already starting to clear up the mess, I looked at his face. It looked so still and grey, so thin and marble-like. His expression etched. He reminded me of my dad. But as a kid I had forgotten what he looked like, but I knew this man's dead face would haunt me forever. He was, as the rest of the crew said, my first body job. The body was removed, and we went about pulling up the carpets and removing the items. I took most of the stuff and put it in the van, his furniture, records, bits of his flesh and fluids in black bags. Even when his body was gone, his blood and fluids had seeped through the carpets, right through to the floorboards. All were removed and thrown into the van. But the shape of the pattern of the blood intrigued me. It was as if even death could become a work of art. The way the blood contoured at the sides, the imprint of where his legs and arms and head were. On the mantelpiece were pictures of him, and I assumed his family. Yet where were they? Newspapers and food filled up his 2 rooms, with rolled-up wrapping paper with his excrement in, and bottles of fizzy drinks filled with his urine. Why would a man take so much time and care to wrap his own shit? What kind of a world was this man living in? Did he die, or did he kill himself? Maybe not by choice, but by the way he lived. All his stuff was stripped of that 2-bedroom flat and put into the van. Before I closed the door on his existence, I looked at the flat bare. Everything that once was one day ago was gone, as if we had wiped him out of this life, as if he never existed. How clean. Nobody asked us what we had done, where he had gone. The only reason his body was found was because the people below complained of the smell above. No one had cared what had happened to this old geezer, not even the people who were framed on his mantelpiece. And here we were, the people who wiped him clean from history. I offered to drive the van to the place where all the stuff would be dumped, and off I went, leaving that flat, which will be etched in my memory forevermore.